New Super Mario Bros. 2 is no stranger to our analysis process, but Nintendo just released a brand new trailer for us to dig into, and you could say it starts things off with a bang. So there's a few interesting things about this clip. At first glance, it seems like this might be a secret shortcut from one world to the next, which is how cannons in the previous New Super Mario Bros. Games worked. And this is actually supported by an image of World 1's map, as revealed by the Japanese website for New Super Mario Bros. 2, which clearly shows the cannon as its own level, just like in past games. But we don't think the cannons are shortcuts this time around for a few reasons. For one, the cannons in New Super Mario Bros. 2 look quite different and don't display the name of the world it's supposedly firing you to. Secondly, we already know from the background that this is World 1. And if we look at the background after the blast, we can see that it looks very similar, just with a different art style. Which we think means we're still in World 1, especially since it doesn't seem to fit the theme of any other worlds that we think are in the game, that we mentioned in our last analysis. If anything, we think these cannons are now special levels, which you still gain access to by finding secret exits from nearby stages. Now what the significance of these levels being a night is, we have no idea, but we do know this. They look very similar to the night levels in World 8 of Super Mario Bros. 3. In fact, the transition from day to darkness is also very similar to how nearly every level in Mario 3 ended, only now there's a cannon involved. Does this hint at something greater, or is it just a callback? And if we dig a little deeper, these special levels might actually be challenge levels. For one, it looks like the cannon gives Mario a running start into the level. And not just that, but it looks like Mario might not actually be able to stop, since he continues to run at full speed for the entire night section. Plus, do you see those little lines moving quickly across the screen? They seem to appear only in this section, which we think means this is a high-speed bonus area that Mario simply can't stop in. And if you crank up the sound, you can hear applause. This probably means Mario's doing pretty well, such as by not missing any coins. Now this applause is not featured in the coin rush levels we played at E3, which further suggests that this is a challenge level which awards you in some way for a good performance. Speaking of special areas, this place looks pretty cheerful. Now there's not much to go off of, but it looks like it might be a special area that you reach using a beanstalk or something similar. We think this because there's simply too many coins to be part of the main course. And we know that a gold ring hasn't been activated since there's no shining spots visible. This also marks the first we've seen of the 100 coin, which as you may have guessed is worth 100 coins, and thus instantly awards a 1-up. Speaking of firsts, although we saw signs that the mini mushroom was returning before, this is the first we've actually seen of it in action. And as you can tell, it awards the same water running and high jumping abilities as in past games. Similarly, while we did know the Mega Mushroom was returning, this is also the first gameplay footage of it in New Super Mario Bros. 2. And like before, it allows you to storm through pretty much everything, which should make collecting coins a snap. Speaking of which, while Nintendo revealed the existence of an Invincibility raccoon leaf before, they didn't say exactly how it worked. But as we guessed, we can now see that's a power-up that appears if you die one too many times in the form of an assist block. It turns you into an invincible version of Raccoon Mario, which allows you to tear recklessly through the remainder of the level, very similar to the White Tanuki suit from Super Mario 3D Land. Moving on, we've already talked about how gold rings turn enemies into money-making machines. But now we can see its effects on a few new enemy types. As the game's official artwork hinted at, bullet bills leave behind a trail of gold coins, while the bonsai bills leave behind 2. Not to be outdone, big boos leave behind a trail of coins 4 to 5 in height, and predictably, Hammer Brothers now throw coins instead of hammers. Changing gears slightly, we previously pointed out these warp pipes that turn your fireballs into coins. Now what we didn't know is if it ran out eventually, or if you could just grind for coins until time ran out. Well, now we know, because if we take a look at this scene from the new trailer, you can see the exclamation mark on the pipe has burned out. That about does it for the trailer, but we're not done yet. Nintendo also revealed some new media on their Japanese site, including this video which shows that the fences, originally from Mario World, are back again. The site also showed off a portion of the game's opening. It shows Raccoon Mario and Luigi waving goodbye to the princess as they depart from her castle. They then take to the sky and land somewhere nearby, where they're greeted by the Koopalings who, surprise, have kidnapped Princess Peach. Besides the obvious kidnapping part, does this seem at all familiar to you? If it does, then you probably played Super Mario World on the Game Boy Advance, which had basically an identical story. In that game, Mario and Luigi, who are wearing their flying capes, leave the princess as they go for a joy flight. And when they return, she's of course missing. So it seems that New Super Mario Bros. 2 has quite a lot in common with Super Mario World, and we can't help but wonder what other references the game might contain. Now there's one more interesting thing about the game's intro. After Mario and Luigi take off, they enter a sky filled with coins. Now their movements here look pretty sporadic, as if they're being controlled. If we're right, this might be the first side-scrolling Mario game with an interactive intro, which is pretty cool. Now let's take a look at the World 1 map again. Nintendo actually released screenshots showing what a lot of the levels are. Of course, we have Peach's Castle, then we have level 1-1, then we get a glimpse inside the Red Toad house where it looks like you'll have the choice of any of 3 items on the shelves. After that, we get a look at the fortress with the new dry piranha plants. And we also know the Reznors in Super Mario World are back as the bosses here too. And in case you were wondering, this recent artwork confirms that they can indeed still spit fire. Following that, we have this underwater level, and finally we wrap things up at the World 1 Castle, which we now know that Roy Koopa is in charge of. And interestingly, this means that they're switching up the order you battle the Koopalings in from previous games, as Roy has never been the World 1 boss before. Speaking of the bosses, the latest overview trailer in Japan reveals a castle-like level with the Koopalings taunting Mario from the Koopa car in the background. Since we already know you'll likely be fighting one of them for each of the first 7 worlds, this might indicate there's one final battle near the end of the game with them all. And with that, we're done covering everything we could dig up in New Super Mario Bros. 2's latest trailer. But remember, there's still much more to this game than we've covered here, so make sure to watch our previous analysis video for a full overview. And as always, make sure to let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments below. Alright, well thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more analysis videos and everything gaming.